this is an iHeart podcast.
People ask us all the time how we can save the next generation.
We've got our show, and the info is an antidote, but we also have a couple books coming out, Clay.
That's right, and you can pre-order both of them right now and be book nerds just like us.
You'll laugh, you'll nod, and you'll get smarter, too.
Mine's called Balls, How Trump, Young Men, and Sports Saved America.
And mine is Manufacturing Delusion, How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You.
Both are great reads. One might even say they would make fabulous gifts.
Indeed. So do us a solid and pre-order yours on Amazon today.
Welcome in. Hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays wherever you are across the country or around the world. We have got a ton of different stories to dive into with you. Buck is in Taiwan, as I said yesterday, for the entire week, so he will be back on Monday. I'll read a couple of the tweets that he has shared as he has been over there doing meetings and checking out what could become one of the major geopolitical flashpoints in the world. He is there for this week. Like I said, we'll be back on Monday. A couple of guests coming your way in the third hour. Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma and Steve Scalise will join us, as well as the looming government shutdown nears closer, inches closer and closer. Big speech this morning by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. It can be summed up as, don't be fat if you are a general or an admiral. You should be in decent shape. And also, the job of the military is to kick ass. And so if you can't fulfill basic standards for health and fitness and lethality, then you shouldn't be serving in our armed forces. It's very well received speech. We may play a couple of cuts of that for you eventually. President Trump also spoke and has been basically speaking all day so far. A lot of it focused on both the military and also now on the cost of prescription drugs. And he is right now in the process of letting everyone know that he is doing his best to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. So all of that is underway. We are awaiting news on whether Hamas is going to agree to the Middle East peace plan that was laid out yesterday near the end of the program. And we will continue to monitor the looming, as I said, government shutdown, which is likely to not impact very many of you very substantially. And again, I'm sorry for being cynical on this, but eventually they're going to reach an agreement. It's going to lead to deficits increasing, and nobody's life is really going to be that impacted. I feel like they've overplayed their hand on the government shutdown as a major narrative that people care about. It's been going on for, the first time I really remember it becoming a major issue was in the Clinton White House. And maybe the most significant aspect of the Clinton government shutdown issues were that was when Clinton initially met Monica Lewinsky and ended up engaging in salacious behavior in the Oval Office, that maybe put it mildly. That may be the most consequential thing that happened from the government shutdowns back in the 90s, was the Clinton impeachments and the Monica Lewinsky fracas. But, again, this is eventually going to get it's eventually going to get itself fixed. So, let's play a couple of things just off the top that I do think are significant of the news. Here is Trump announcing that Pfizer will offer prescription drugs to Americans at most favored nation prices. This just happened, cut 32.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce that one of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers and one of the best anywhere in the world, Pfizer, has agreed to offer countless prescription medications at major discounts in the United States as a result of the most favored nation drug pricing order that we established earlier this year. As you know, the United States is paying sometimes 10 times more than other countries for drugs, and a lot of excuses were made for that, but it went on for many years, many years, decades, and it's not going on any longer. We're going to be paying the lowest price. Now we're going to be paying whatever the lowest price is, favored nations. This will save American taxpayers and consumers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay, so that is what's going on right now. Let me play some of these because I do think the cuts from Pete Hegseth earlier today talking to his generals and his admirals is significant because what it's coming to represent is we are pushing back aggressively against the idea, basically, that diversity is our strength or that men and women are the same and that the ability of someone basically to kick ass is not paramount inside of the military. Hegseth is saying, look, our job is to kick ass, and we're going to do everything that it takes to make sure that everyone in the military is capable of doing that. Let's listen to a couple of these cuts because I do think culturally this is significant. Pete Hegseth, cut 15.
Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level, we should seek to exceed the standard.
This is important because I know a lot of you are in the service and they have developed this idea that there is a male standard for physicality and a female standard for physicality. And if your job is to kick ass, the standard should just be the kick ass standard, not, hey, men have to do this to qualify and women have to do this lesser ability to qualify. That doesn't make any sense when the job actually requires ass kicking. And so I think this is significant. It also ties in with this, cut 18. Biology matters. Men and women are different. Listen to cut 18.
As foolish and reckless as the woke department was, those officers were following elected political leadership. An entire generation of generals and admirals were told that they must parrot the insane fallacy that, quote, our diversity is our strength. Of course, we know our unity is our strength. They had to put out dizzying DEI and LGBTQI plus statements. They were told females and males are the same thing, or that males who think they're females totally normal. They were told that we need a green fleet and electric tanks. They were told to kick out Americans who refused an emergency vaccine. They followed civilian policies set by foolish and reckless political leaders.
This is also a standard that Hegseth is applying going forward when it comes to the generals and the admirals as well, in terms of what do you want your leadership to look like? Cut 16.
The new War Department golden rule is this: do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? In a unit where leaders were promoted for reasons other than merit, performance, and warfighting? The answer is not just no, it's hell no.
Okay, this is important, and the military is symbolic of this. In many ways, what the Trump administration is advocating for is a simple and basic return to the idea of the meritocracy. That is, the best man or the best woman should have the most success, not the person who looks a certain way. And that we don't need to have, and I think this is essential, integral even, we don't need to have our nation directly reflecting what the population looks like as a whole when it comes to elite jobs. And I'll give you an example from the world of sports that I've been hammering for a long time. What Pete Hegseth said, diversity is not our strength. I think that's 100% true. Now, diversity of thought matters in many respects, but what matters is that the most elite are able to achieve at the highest possible level. And let me give you an example. The Olympics are next year. The United States men's basketball team may not have any white, Asian, or Hispanic athletes on it. Think about that for a minute. Black men represent around 6% of the overall population. They are going to have 100% potentially of our U.S. men when it comes to the Olympic team that we put on the court next year. And if they don't have 100%, they're going to have 90% or 88% or whatever the math is. Overwhelming numbers. That is one of the foremost examples of a lack of diversity at elite positions anywhere in the United States. Yet, those guys are the best. If we said we need a men's basketball team that accurately reflects the American population, we would have 60% white guys. We would have 13, 14% Hispanic guys. We would have right around 12%. This is assuming, by the way, that we're willing to acknowledge there's a biological difference and not saying that women should be on the team too, because that would more perfectly reflect the American population, right? But let's say for the U.S. men's basketball team, we're only going to have men because men are better at basketball than women. That would mean if we did a perfect snapshot of America, you'd have to fire a lot of black guys. In fact, 9 probably black guys on the roster would lose their job, and they would be replaced by other basketball players that are not as good. And the result would be our basketball team would perfectly reflect American diversity, majority white, same number of Hispanic guys as black guys, Asian guy. And boy, it would be a cosmetically beautiful photo. But we'd get our ass kicked, probably by a lot of other countries. Because in trying to perfectly reflect American diversity on our basketball team, we would actually end up with a far less meritocratic team. That is, the best players wouldn't actually make the U.S. men's basketball team. It's a great example for those of you out there that have to deal with DEI all the time in your own jobs. There's no DEI in basketball. Basketball is actually among the least diverse, high-earning jobs in America. Nobody points to it. Nobody says, hey, what's wrong here? They're getting this wrong. This basketball team doesn't look like America. There's way too many black guys on it. You never hear it said. And in fact, if the basketball team looked like America, we'd all be worse. Well, I think you could make that argument in the military, too. Don't we want the baddest-ass warfighters on the planet to rise to levels of command and to rise to the levels of the most significant ranks in our military? We don't want Admiral Levine, that dude pretending to be a chick, trying to lead our troops. That isn't actually a strength at all. In fact, it's, I would argue, an example of mental illness inside of the military, that is someone who is in a position of authority. We should want in all facets of American life the absolute best, most talented people with the most significant jobs. We got to bring back the meritocracy in America. And sometimes that might mean that the positions at the absolute apex don't 100% reflect America. There's a lot more Asian dudes working at a high level in Silicon Valley right now than there are Asian dudes in the country. Is that racism? No. It's that those guys have a skill set that they are putting to work in Silicon Valley that vastly over exceeds as a population per capita percentage what you would expect to see. The best men or the best women should be at the absolute apex in this country. That hasn't been true in the military. So I give credit to Pete Hegseth for that speech that he gave. Why I think it's significant culturally is it represents a major pivot point from Joe Biden saying, I'm going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. I'm going to pick a woman to be my vice president. You're not saying you're picking the best person for the job. You're telling us that you're checking a box, and in the process, you're actually delegitimizing the people that you are picking. This is a real decision that has to be made. The best man or the best woman, not the best man pretending to be a woman, should be on the medal stand when it comes to the end of every sporting event, and the best man or the best woman or some combination thereof should be in leadership everywhere. We're going to dive into this. I want to go back yesterday. I mentioned J.K. Rowling and what I thought was so profound about what she said. I want to dive into that. I'm going to play some of the cuts from my Paul Feinbaum interview that went everywhere. Don Lemon and Joy Reid have some thoughts on race in America, and I think you're going to enjoy those. And by enjoy those, I mean you're going to fall off your chairs. You're going to have to grip the steering wheel tighter because you're going to look around and say, I can't believe that this is what passes for thought leadership on the left in this country. But first, I want to tell you, the 2-year anniversary of October 7th, 2023 in Israel is rapidly approaching. And this Sunday, you're going to witness a show of support for Israel and this nation you haven't seen in a very long time. Grassroots effort to honor the memory of those lost 2 years ago in the brutal Hamas terrorist attack. You'll see Israeli flags on display in yards, storefronts, cars, everywhere. It's a movement of support for the people in Israel called the Flags of Fellowship, and it's organized by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Millions of Americans across our nation will display an Israeli flag in honor and solidarity with the families and victims of that Hamas terror attack. You can be a part of this movement too. Go online to ifcj.org. Send a message, stand with Israel, join the Flags of Fellowship movement. Visit the fellowship online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
Saving America. One thought at a time. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? WashableSofas.com has your back. Featuring the Anabay collection, the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slipcovers made with performance fabrics. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Check out WashableSofas.com and get up to 60% off your Anabay sofa, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Welcome back in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show. Yesterday, I spent some time talking about how I have so much admiration for J.K. Rowling because she is, I would argue, one of the most fearless women in the world, one of the most fearless people on the planet. And you say, okay, what do you mean by that, Clay? J.K. Rowling became a billionaire because of the Harry Potter books. Once you become a billionaire, you basically have no risk in life remotely anymore if you decide to have an easy life. That is, all of the things that most of us worry about on a day-to-day basis, they're all eliminated from your life as a billionaire. I'm not saying that everything in life is perfect when you have a certain amount of money, because health can be an issue. Your family's health can be an issue. There are lots of things that no matter how much money you have, there can still be issues in your life. But in general, billionaires do not have the same concerns that you and me and most of the rest of us would have. And what has often frustrated me is lots of billionaires may agree with everything I say on this radio program or everything you think out there listening, but they're so concerned about what other people think about them that they don't say what they really think. And to me, the only reason to have money is to have no constraints on what you are able to say, because otherwise you're just putting on a pair of golden handcuffs. You ever hear that phrase? Golden handcuffs. Such an interesting phrase. I never heard it because I didn't grow up with substantial amounts of money. The first time I ever heard it was in law school. Because young lawyers, you come out and you make a lot of money. And I remember somebody saying, the money's great, But really, it's just a form of golden handcuffs. Somebody a little bit older than me. I said, what do you mean? So, well, in order to make that money, you are selling your labor to the law firm, and you are giving up much of your life in exchange for the money that they're going to give you. You don't have as much freedom when you become a young lawyer as you do when you're a law student. Now, you have way more money, but you have way more responsibilities, way more obligations. And I bet a lot of you, as you have grown in life, have come to understand that concept. Maybe you bought a house that's a little bit too much expensive for you. That's a form of golden handcuffs. It's a beautiful home, but can you pay the mortgage every month? Maybe you bought a car that's a little bit too expensive. Oh, it looks good. Oh, can you imagine what the girls are going to think when you pull up at the bar in this one? Can you imagine what everybody in the neighborhood's going to think when you're rolling down the street in that car? Oh, but, there's a pretty big payment that comes with that car. It's golden handcuffs. Maybe you got a kid and you're excited because they just got into a good college or a good private school, but you're looking at that tuition bill. It's golden handcuffs. You have to keep working harder and harder. Your things may be getting nicer, but you don't really feel that free because your expenses often are growing at the same rate as your income, sometimes exceeding it. So you'll look back and you'll be like, man, I thought if I ever made twice as much money as I do now, I'd be fine. But somehow you have just as little money making twice as much money as you did before, right? And there are all sorts of financial consultants out there that'll say, oh, well, it's all about budgeting, and there's a lot of truth to that. But in life, metaphorically, if you are too concerned about what people think about you, you are putting golden handcuffs on yourself. Because you may not speak out and say what you really think. And it seems to me a lot of billionaires do that. And that's why I am so impressed with J.K. Rowling. She could have just done the Hollywood circuit where everybody kisses her ass for the rest of her life. She could have just relaxed on the fact that she wrote this 7-book series, Harry Potter, and they built this fabulous Universal Studios world, Harry Potter, which is truly unbelievable and spectacular if you got young kids who like to read these books. An entire generation of kids she inspired to read. She could have just kind of rode on the path of genius and wealth, and only people would have said nice things about J.K. Rowling for the rest of her life. She was on that path. But she saw this gender insanity, and she said, I can't stay quiet about this. She saw everybody suddenly arguing men can become women, and she was the person who said, actually, that's not true. You ever notice how you've probably been in a room where somebody has said something that you know is not true, and most people won't call it out? You may have been at, maybe it was at church, maybe it was at business, maybe it was at a PTA meeting. Somebody says something that everybody knows is untrue, but everybody just feels like they have to stay quiet because they're afraid of everybody looking at them. J.K. Rowling was like, I dissent, right? If you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, one of the funny things about the Larry David series, which I love even though he's a super left-wing liberal, is that he actually says a lot of what everybody else thinks. I think I have an element of that in my life. What J.K. Rowling did, though, is super rare. Men can become women. Oh, yeah, this is, good for you. You go, girl. She said, no, this is actually not true. And worse than that, it's actually anti-feminist. When you say a man can become a woman and the first flippin' year he's a woman, he gets Woman of the Year? It's not even the first movie he was in. He's got a penis. He can't be the Woman of the Year. What are you chicks doing? You're crazy. A lot of women just went along with it. J.K. Rowling said, no, excuse me, this is not right. And this Emma Watson, Hermione Granger, for all of you out there who watched the movie, she's been going after J.K. Rowling for years now over these gender issues. And yesterday, J.K. Rowling woke up and she just said, I'm sorry, I'm going to end this bitch. And I got to read some of what she tweeted yesterday because this is 100% true. Last night when I was getting ready for bed, I turned to my wife. Her lights are out almost. I was like, did you see what J.K. Rowling said about Emma Watson? Wife's like, no, I didn't see it yet. And I was like, well, let me just read some of this for you. Because I went back last night before I was going to bed to reread this because it was so well said. And I just want to hit you with a couple of these segments. Emma Watson and her co-stars have every right to embrace gender identity ideology. This is the words of J.K. Rowling. Such beliefs are legally protected, and I wouldn't want to see any of them threatened with loss of work or violence or death because of them. But she says Emma and some of the other kids that grew up on the Harry Potter set have ripped her to shreds. And she says years after they finished acting in Potter, they continue to assume the role of the de facto spokespeople for the world I created. Well, some of these sentences, are just, again, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created, says J.K. Rowling. I think she may have a future in writing. I think she may one day be able to make a decent living. This is J.K. Rowling continuing. When you've known people since they were 10 years old, it's hard to shake a certain protectiveness. Until quite recently, I hadn't managed to throw off the memory of children who needed to be gently coaxed through their dialogue in a big, scary film studio. For the past few years, I've repeatedly declined invitations from journalists to comment on Emma. I told the producers I didn't want her to be hounded as the result of anything I said. And then she continues. Emma asked someone to pass on a handwritten note from her to me, which contained the single sentence, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. She has my phone number. This was back when the death, rape, and torture threats against me were at their peak, at a time when my personal security measures had to be tightened considerably, and I was constantly worried for my family's safety. Emma had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness. And then this paragraph, buckle up. Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She's never going to be placed on a mixed-sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's been in a high street changing room since childhood. Her public bathroom is single occupancy and comes with a security man standing guard outside the door. Has she had to strip off in a newly mixed-sex changing room at a council-run swimming pool? Is she ever likely to need a state-run rape crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-female service? To find herself sharing a prison cell with a male rapist who's identified into the women's prison. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love as though the friend was in fact their mother. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public. But I have the same right, and I finally decided to exercise it. Holy crap. That thing has 58 million views right now on Twitter. And the reason I wanted to share it was twofold. One, we need more J.K. Rowlings. More people who are fearlessly willing to stand for what is right, particularly those of you out there, and this is directly addressed to you, who have the money and wherewithal to do so. Why are you such cowards? Why do you continue to try and stay behind the scenes because you're worried about what people might say to you when you know that they are wrong? Two, I think there are a lot of you that are parents and grandparents that can particularly connect with what J.K. Rowling said there. You have gone through struggles that your kids and your grandkids, if you are fortunate enough to have built for them, can never even comprehend. They don't even know what they don't know. And I've never met J.K. Rowling. I don't know that I ever will. But when I read that, it is so perfectly said on so many different levels that I wanted to make sure that I shared it with all of you. We'll link it on Clay and Buck, but I think if you go read it for yourself, most of us are not going to write best-selling novels and become multi-billionaires. But all of us in our lives are going to be dealing with young people who are oftentimes standing on the shoulders of giants, and they have no idea that that's what's going on. Another way of putting it is they're standing on third base and they think they hit a triple. They've got no idea what actually has to happen in life for them to have had the opportunity they have been given. So earlier in the show, I came out against DEI. I'm also against people who haven't achieved anything thinking that they are the greatest in their line of work. As she said, she had no money when she wrote the book that made Emma Watson famous. So well said. J.K. Rowling, again, I wanted to make sure that I read that for all of you because I see it as a personal opportunity to challenge all of you out there with the resources like J.K. Rowling. You're listening right now. You're watching right now. Where is your spine? Where is your bravery? Why is J.K. Rowling willing to put everything that she has on the line to stand for truth, and you are still hiding in the shadows because you're worried about what some charity board's going to say if you come out and speak the truth? I hope you can have some of the bravery, just a smidge, that J.K. Rowling showed in that post and that she has shown in the past several years of her life. A challenge from her to all of you. Look, there are certain documents you always want to have in order. Annual tax returns, going through that right now. Your kids properly registered for all the things that they do. That's a constant challenge to the parent. Having a will and a trust in place, definite must have. If you haven't yet created one or both, trustandwill.com is a website that allows you to do it online without having to find an attorney. Trust and Will makes the whole process a lot easier, too. The result will give you peace of mind now and your surviving family members clarity in the future. The website to get started, save 20%, is trustandwill.com/Clay. They're experts in creating personalized trust and wills that protect your legacy. Visit trustandwill.com/Clay. You're going to feel better about having those in place for the benefit of your family and loved ones. I have a trust and a will in place. You should, too. trustandwill.com/Clay.
Patriots, radio hosts, a couple of regular guys. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, Buck, one of my kids called me an unk the other day.
An unk?
Yep, slang evidently for not being hip, being an old dude.
So how do we un-unk you?
Get more people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. At least that's what my kids tell me.
That's simple enough. Just search the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show and hit the subscribe button.
Takes less than 5 seconds to help un-unk me.
Do it for Clay, do it for freedom, and get great content while you're there. The Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show YouTube channel.
Welcome in. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We are rolling through the Tuesday edition of the program. Encourage you to go subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And you will be glad that you did. You can also go subscribe to us on YouTube. You can find us basically on any social media platform under the sun. And you can check out the first couple of hours of the program. Buck is in Taiwan. He will be back on Monday. In the meantime, we're headed up to D.C. for this third hour, and we are joined now by Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. And let's dive right into it. Is there going to be a shutdown? And if so, Senator, how is it going to impact the average listener of ours out there right now?
So, Clay, thanks for having me on. And yes, I don't see there's any way in the world we can avoid a shutdown. Chuck Schumer is so scared of AOC in his own state running against him that he's willing to hold the American people hostage, because what we're doing here is we're putting a clean CR. Clean CR means it's the same funding, same language that Chuck Schumer voted for 6 months ago, and the same language he voted for a year ago. So nothing has changed, that he's voted already twice on this same funding package, except now he's been threatened that if he votes for it from the left, that they're going to primary him, and AOC is either going to run against him or going to find somebody to run against him. So he's running scared, and he's holding the American people hostage over it. If that happens, and we do go to a shutdown, which, Clay, I don't see there's any way we avoid it at this point. I think we're going to a Chuck Schumer shutdown. It's not really going to affect anybody for the first 2 weeks, and it depends on what is deemed essential and non-essential. That's the president's discretion at the time. But for those in the military, they get paid October 1st. All their paychecks will still go out. They'll be paid in full. On the 2nd is when federal employees get paid. Their paychecks are already processed. They will go out and they will be paid in full. When all Social Security benefits, Medicare, Medicaid benefits will still be intact, still be moving forward, because that's discretionary, or that's mandatory spending, not discretionary. We're fighting over discretionary spending at this point. And so but in 2 weeks, on the October 15th and 16th, if we are still shut down, then federal employees and military won't be paid. Because why? Because you have a career politician, Chuck Schumer, who has decided that his job is more important than keeping the American people and the government funded.
What is the dispute over right now, in a succinct way?
So, as quick as you can put it, the dispute is really over their hatred towards President Trump. So the question is what is their demand? Their demand on funding levels, by the way, that they've already voted for already twice, and they voted for a CR 13 times underneath Biden. The difference now is Trump's in office, and they want to slow walk any policies that he has, regardless that the American people elected President Trump and kicked out their agenda because it was horrible for America. It put President Trump in place in November. What their demand is now is they want to extend a policy that they had put in place during COVID that they could have made permanent, but they knew that it was temporary, to basically subsidize ACA, affordable health care, which, affordable health care is supposed to be affordable, right? But during COVID, they put a subsidy in that waived all requirements, meaning there was no proof of citizenship, there was no proof of income that you needed help or anything. Everybody was eligible for this subsidy, and they funded insurance companies to allow them to sign up people unchecked. And this is a tune of about $350 billion to the taxpayers. Now, COVID is over, and they intended for this to shut down to begin with, because they sunsetted it. They were in control of the government at the time, complete control. They could have made it permanent if they wanted to. They decided not to. And so now they're saying that they want this extended. And we're saying, wait, COVID is over. Why do we need to be paying a subsidy to insurance companies now that are making record profits, which I'm all about people making profits, but why are the taxpayers still subsidizing that? And why are we allowing illegal aliens to get these benefits for free? Because those that came here illegally, they should be getting shipped back. That's what the American people voted for in November. But this extends that coverage to them. Why? Because there's no checks and balances to say that they're eligible or not. They just automatically get enrolled into Obamacare, and that's what Chuck Schumer is fighting for. So basically, to still have taxpayers pay for these illegals to have health care insurance.
We're talking to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma. Inevitably, these issues eventually get decided. And by the way, along with virtually everybody listening right now, what Democrats are seeking is absurd. Do you think we'll have a resolution before October 15th, before individuals' paychecks could be impacted?
Well, I always tell people I'm good for a big fight, and a good fight as long as I know what victory looks like and it's possible to win. But if you go into a fight, which is what the Democrats are doing here, what does victory look like for them? Because it's hard for them to explain that a clean CR that they've already supported twice, why they wouldn't, what's different today than it was a year ago or 6 months ago. So I would assume they would come to their senses before that. But you can't reason with crazy, and that's what Chuck Schumer is right now. He's crazy. He's running scared. You got to keep in mind, in 1996, when I was a senior in high school, which was 29 years ago, Chuck Schumer then was a congressman. He went on the House floor and railed against benefits going to illegal aliens that came to this country illegally. That was in 1996.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's willing to shut down the government as a senator and as a Democrat leader over giving benefits to illegals. So you can't rationalize with that kind of thinking. So I would assume that people, cooler heads would come to the table and they would accept the clean CR, but you can't, at this point, you can't rationalize what they're even thinking here. You can't, as my mama said, you can't argue with crazy.
I think that's well said by your mama, by the way. Also, we're around the same age, and a lot of Democrat talking points in the 90s are actually Republican talking points now for people like Chuck Schumer who were involved long enough. Yeah. I mean, Bill Clinton, 1992 would be a Republican now. I mean, in all seriousness, if you go back and look at it.
Democrat Party, for sure.
Yeah. When you look at what happened in the November election about 11 months ago, Trump won a landslide, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, kicked Kamala's ass coast to coast. Democrats had 2 choices. One, they could look in the mirror and they could say, as I think a lot of people try to do, I don't know, I know you were involved in sports back in the day, sometimes you get beat and you say, boy, we really beat ourselves. We didn't execute the game plan we had. We turned the ball over too much. If we had played like we expect to play, we would have won. Your game plan then, you just have to go execute it better. Other times, you get your ass kicked and you're like, boy, that team's a lot better than us. And either we're going to have to change our game plan, change the trajectory, or we're just going to keep getting our ass kicked going forward. Seems to me that Democrats had a choice, Senator. They could look in the mirror and say they heard our message, they didn't like it, and we got beat accordingly. Or they could say, we just got to double and triple and quadruple down on crazy. It seems like they chose the second option, which just means they're going to keep getting their ass kicked, probably even worse.
Well, to use your sports analogy, it's like the kid that gets beat in wrestling, because wrestling's our family, and you get beat and you blame it on the ref every time. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize it's part of your practice habits, and it's your training partners, and it's what you put in that you're not getting back out, and so it's easier to blame somebody else, and so you double down on the blame game. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. You're absolutely correct. Instead of them taking a licking and looking back, that's what we call it from Oklahoma, right? You're taking a licking. That's when you get beat. When you get beat and take it and looking back and going, wow. Some of the best lessons learned is when you lose, because if you reevaluate it and you can learn what you did wrong, correct it, you'll only be stronger and better. Or you double down and blame somebody else. They're blaming the American people, the Democrats. They're blaming the American people, saying you got it wrong. You got it wrong. You didn't understand what you voted for. You got it wrong. Well, actually, they didn't. They knew exactly what they were voting against because they had 4 years of it. They had 4 years of an embarrassment from an administration that wanted to go away what all American values have always traditionally stood for. They wanted to go away from what America has stood for and move us towards socialism, and it didn't work. It was an experiment that failed. And so now the left is running the Democrat Party. You could go to JFK and you could say the same thing that you did about Clinton. JFK wouldn't belong to this party anymore. And when he says that they're the party of JFK, that's not accurate, because this party is the party of Madami, or however you say his name. A communist socialist. This is a party of AOC and Bernie Sanders and Jasmine Crockett that go out there and openly claim to be is socialist. This is a party of Tlaib and Omar, who is, they go out there and hate America, and I mean that sincerely. And so you go, where's the Democrat Party today? They got beat because of what they stand for, and the polling shows the Democrat Party's least popular now than they've ever been in history. Yep. And you have leaders like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries just leading them down this tumbling path of identity crisis.
What did you think of? I saw your push-up, pull-up challenge, which you absolutely crushed. I think it was like 3 minutes and 40 seconds or something, if I remember it off the top of my
33 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous for anybody, but especially for somebody who's on Capitol Hill. What did you think of Pete Hegseth's address to the warfighters of America this morning?
Hey, man, lead from front, right? When I was running my companies and building my companies every single day, I told my management team, hey, if you want your employees to show up on time, you need to be there 30 minutes earlier. If you want them there at 7:30, you be there at 7. If you want them to work late, you work 30 minutes past they do. If you want them to answer the phone when you call, you better always answer your phone. And by the way, if you want them to show up with a clean shirt and clean pants on every day, then your shirts need to be starched. If we're having, and this is what's always bugged me about coaches too. Coaches are coaching athletes. They have access to every piece of equipment and every trainer that their athletes do. There's no excuse why a coach in football, wrestling, basketball, I don't care what it is, that's out of shape when you're trying to get your players and your athletes in shape. In the military, you're fighting for the heart of our country. You're fighting for the existence of our country. You're protecting the freedoms of those home and abroad. And we should expect excellence. And if you're going to expect excellence, then the generals who's leading from the front need to express that and show that every single day in themselves, because they set the standard. And no one's going to lead or meet that standard unless that leader is meeting that standard too. And so whatever your expectations are, you need to set yours higher than what everybody else is below. So I commend Hegseth in saying this. We're going to get our butts in shape. Fat generals and fat admirals walking through the Pentagon is no more, and I commend him for that. I actually sent him a text message and I said, Brady, my chest is pumping with pride for what you just said.
Amen. Senator, we appreciate the time. Let us know when you need to come back on, and we appreciate you sharing the Capitol Hill with us.
Thanks, Clay. See ya. Bye.
Yeah, that's Senator Mark Wayne Mullen with us. And I got to tell you, gold keeps setting record highs. Buy more gold to balance the declining value of the dollar. That's what's happened to a lot of people who have benefited from the rise in gold. We all should own gold in our portfolio, no matter the quantity, large or small, whether it's to diversify your savings and retirement accounts or as a hedge against inflation. Birch Gold Group believes every single American should own physical gold. Today's the last day that Birch Gold Group is making an incredible offer for first-time gold buyers. Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility, start the process, request an info kit now. Just text my name, Clay, to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. Diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Make now your first time to buy gold. Take advantage of a rebate of up to $10,000 when you buy right now. By the end of this month, text my name Clay right now for that benefit to 989898. Claim your eligibility to get today. Again, text Clay 989898. That's my name Clay to 989898.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Mic drops that never sounded so good. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast.
There's nothing like sinking into luxury. At WashableSofas.com, you'll find the Anabay sofa, which combines ultimate comfort and design at an affordable price. And get this, it's the only sofa that's fully machine washable from top to bottom, starting at only $699. The stain-resistant performance fabric slipcovers and cloud-like frame duvet can go straight into your wash. Perfect for anyone with kids, pets, or anyone who loves an easy-to-clean, spotless sofa. With a modular design and changeable slipcovers, you can customize your sofa to fit any space and style. Whether you need a single chair, love seat, or a luxuriously large sectional, Anabay has you covered. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Right now, you can shop up to 60% off store-wide with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Add a little to your life. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Welcome back in. Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We are joined now by Congressman Steve Scalise. He has been through a lot, and we're going to run through all of the things coming up with a big turning point event that he's going to be a part of shortly. But, Congressman, I want to start with we haven't had you on since the Charlie Kirk shooting, but you've been a victim of political violence. You almost lost your life while you were preparing for, I believe it was the baseball game, but just practicing with other members of your team. What did you think when you saw the Charlie Kirk video, and how much of it created flashbacks for you of what happened to you about 8 years ago?
Hey, Clay and Buck, thank you for having me. It was such a tough day. I mean, my gosh, just to see somebody, at the time we didn't know Charlie was dead, but you could just see it was something bad happened to Charlie. And that alone was just unearthing. I mean, alarming, and it makes you angry to see that, somebody as talented as Charlie was out there just talking to people. I mean, encouraging people to debate in a civil way, which is what we all should be celebrating. And to the idea that somebody thinks they can just take away a life because they disagree with you politically is insane. And so I had a lot of anger. I had, just a lot of feelings. You feel for Charlie personally, for his family. I mean, he's got a young family, and I'm thinking all those things. And then obviously along the way, some of the, thoughts go back to 2017 and the shooting, with me and my other colleagues. And, we had a crazed shooter that went and he wanted to kill every Republican on that ball field. And this idea that you've got these people that think you can solve, your political differences with violence it's against everything America stands for. And it was just a horrible day in a lot of ways.
We're talking with Steve Scalise. He is the House Majority Leader, and he's in Louisiana's 1st Congressional District. I'll get into what in the world's happened to LSU's offense with you in a moment, Congressman. But you've got a big turning point event that you are a part of. What's going on there? What should people know about it? And what is the importance of this event in the wake of, as we were just talking about, what happened to Charlie?
Well, I think something just remarkable has come out of a horrible situation, and that is that it really is awoken people to say, wait a minute, we are not going to live in fear. We're not going to allow a voice like Charlie's to have this movement that Charlie created just end. And in fact, I think the movement is going to grow even stronger. You've seen Erica, his widow, just powerfully talk about how she's going to grow it into something even bigger. And it's really happening. I mean, we've seen 50,000+ young people have said, I want to start a Turning Point chapter on my college campus or high school campus where it doesn't yet exist. And we've seen a lot of Turning Point chapters. LSU, where I went to school, we've got a Turning Point chapter, and Charlie was going to be speaking in just a few days to that campus chapter, and the event will now go on. Our Governor, Jeff Landry, is going to be highlighting it. And, it's the old saying, the show must go on. And I think you're going to see a lot more people, including people maybe that never even knew what Turning Point was about, who now have seen it. They've gone back and looked at Charlie's speeches, and he's inspired a whole new generation of people. So this idea they were going to silence him is truly backfired. I mean, I think you've seen the movement already grow stronger, and young people will not be silenced. Young people, look, they're sick and tired of these leftists telling them what to do and how to think, and you've got to hate institutions and religion. It's also brought a new awakening in religion. People going to church for the first time and understanding. And Charlie had such a deep faith in God, as do I. People now are maybe getting back in touch with God too, and that's a good thing.
You mentioned the impact that Charlie's having. I interviewed Paul Feinbaum. I know you're a college football fan, as was Charlie. And Paul told me he's thinking about running for the Senate in Alabama as partly a result of what he saw happen to Charlie Kirk. He just it left him shaken, and he wanted to think about what he could do to be the most impactful in his life. I think that you are hearing, as you mentioned, a lot of people from all walks of life, regardless of what their background is, sitting around and thinking, how can I embody the courage that Charlie showed, that you showed after you were shot, to help take the country to a better place?
Well, it's so true. And, I saw Paul's statements, and I think you're going to see a lot more things like that. More people that maybe were on the sidelines, or, maybe if you're in media, they might have been scared to speak out because the culture in media is so far to the left. And they're worried about cancel culture. I don't think people are going to be worried about that cancel culture anymore. I think it's reversing the other way, where it's, the pendulums do swing in life and in politics. And I think people are disgusted by this idea that, radical leftists can just shut you up if they don't agree with your point of view. They were trying to do it in social media. Those days are over. And I think the days of trying to shut people up or only presenting one point of view in mainstream media are over too. Few people are watching some of those shows anyway that do that. But I think the rest of the public wants free speech, embraces free speech, and realizes how much it's threatened by the left. The left, ironically, are the ones who seem to want to shut down free speech, and we're not going to let it happen.
We're talking to Steve Scalise, congressman from Louisiana. What should we know succinctly? We talked with Senator Markwayne Mullin earlier this hour, but from your perspective, what should our listeners know about the potential shutdown that would start tomorrow?
Well, we passed a bill through the House 2 weeks ago to keep government funding at current levels. And you're seeing Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, the far left fringes that want a government shutdown, not for any particular reason, but just they don't like the results of the election last November. And they're far left based. The radicals in the Democrat Party just want to fight with Donald Trump. And a temper tantrum is not an excuse to shut down the government and disrupt the lives of millions of people. Think about it. Our men and women in uniform will not get paid. TSA agents won't get paid. Federal parks are shut down. A lot of bad things happen in people's lives that get disrupted just because Chuck Schumer wants to have some kind of bar fight with Donald Trump because he doesn't like the results of the election in November. Think about this. Democrats and Republicans voted for these very same funding levels in March. Nothing's changed since March, except the far left elements that are about to elect a Marxist in New York City are also clamoring for a government shutdown. And ultimately, it's going to be up to Democrats in Congress. Are they going to feed the craziest voices on the left? Are they going to do the right thing? And the right thing is keep the government funded. This isn't a permanent solution, but at least for 7 weeks, short term, while we negotiate our differences. Clearly, we have differences, but you don't have a tantrum and disrupt the lives of millions of people during that difference to negotiation. Let's keep government funded at its current levels. The bill's in the Senate, so it's all on Schumer right now. If there's a government shutdown, it's only because Schumer decided to cave to the far left elements of his radical base and disrupt the lives of millions of people. I hope he doesn't do it. And there's a chance that cooler heads will prevail. But right now, Schumer's looking for a shutdown, and we'll see where it goes come tomorrow.
All right. Right now, the biggest story in the state of Louisiana is not government shutdowns. It is the Tiger offense. So we got a lot of people listening all over the country, but for people who don't know, LSU couldn't stop anybody on defense last year. This year, the offense has vanished. Our buddy Lane Kiffin, I think he's been on the program up at Ole Miss celebrating. A lot of Rebels fans, big rivalry there. Really enjoyed the win. Congressman, you got to solve everything in the world right now. Solve what's going on with your LSU Tigers. What do they need? What's wrong?
Well, give me about another $10 million in NIL money. We can solve it. But no, look, I was in Oxford, Mississippi, and it was tough. It was tough I'm an LSU alum. I love my Tigers, and we're going to bounce back. But, we've been having some offensive problems the last few weeks, and Garrett Nussmeier is a great quarterback. You could see his numbers from last year. He did have an injury at the beginning of this year. Not sure he's completely through that yet. Once you see him 100%, I think you'll see this team bounce back. We got some tough teams ahead. We still go to Alabama. We have A&M coming in. We go to Vanderbilt, who's undefeated. We've still got some tough games to prove ourselves. And I believe in Coach Kelly. I think they're going to bounce back. Our defense is much better. It's the SEC. I mean, we just lost to the number 4 team in the nation. So let's not pull the panic button, but let's get better. We can, and we have the capability with a great quarterback to do it.
The Grove is a spectacular place to go tailgate, watch a college football game. I'm fortunate to have been to a bunch of games there. LSU on a Saturday night is about as good as it gets. For people who have never been and may never go to an LSU Saturday night football game, what should they know about what the experience is like?
Well, first of all, don't deprive yourself of that treat of being in Tiger Stadium at some point on a Saturday night in your life. I mean, it's a box everybody needs to check. The tailgating alone, you got to go up there early. I mean, just for the food experience, everybody knows what New Orleans food is like, some of the best food in the world. You have better Cajun chefs at some of the tailgates before the game at an LSU game than you'll get at some of the finest restaurants in New Orleans. It's world class. They take it seriously. And then the game itself, 103,000 incredibly screaming loud fans. You get Garth Brooks playing Call in Baton Rouge on the speakers, and man, the crowd goes nuts. It's a scene like no other on a Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. You got to come. I'll be there, and I think we'll have to get everybody to check that box on their dance card to come to do that one time in their life at least.
No, I've been. It's an amazing time. Congressman, we appreciate the time. Always happy to have you on. Good luck with that Turning Point event, and good luck with LSU figuring out what's going on with the offense.
Hey, go Tigers, and God bless. Let's keep getting this country back on track.
Amen. That is Congressman Steve Scalise, as you heard, running through all of the challenges right now on Capitol Hill, and also, much less significantly, the challenges for the LSU Tiger offense. Speaking of sports, you guys know I love it, and I love this company. I was in Athens, Georgia over the weekend, and I was hanging out with the founder. Adam built a great company. He's a University of Georgia grad, lived in Athens, grew up in the Atlanta area. Best place out there to have some fun with sports, Prize Picks. Right now, hey, Major League Baseball playoffs underway. Really looking forward to seeing how the Mets do. Sorry, Mets fans. I couldn't resist. You spent a lot of money. You didn't even make the playoffs. But there are a lot of teams in the Major League Baseball playoffs. We are underway right now. So if baseball is your favorite sport, if football is your favorite sport, which it is for me, college or pro, I'll give you picks on Thursday. We have hit 3 out of the first 4 weeks. You can play in California. You can play in Texas. You can play in Georgia. Get hooked up right now with Prize Picks. Use my name, Clay, and when you play $5, you get back $50. That's code Clay on Prize Picks. It is lots of fun. It's easy to use. Go ahead and download the app. Use my name, Clay. Play $5, you get $50 in there, and you'll be ready on Thursday. May even tell you guys, hey, pull out your phones. Here's how you play, more or less. It's super easy to use, but go ahead and download the app. Let's see if we can win some more with Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use code CLAY, that's my name, CLAY, for $50 when you play $5.
Keep up with the biggest political comeback in world history on the Team 47 podcast. Clay and Buck highlight Trump replays from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.